Real quick disclaimer here before you get to know the hosts a little bit better. We are going to be all over the place. There's going to be foreshadowing, there's going to be spoilers. We're going to be talking about the fourth book, the seventh book, the second book, and we may give information out that you don't really want to hear yet. So if you're just trying to follow along as we go, I'd probably go ahead and skip this episode. Wait till the next one comes out. But if you're already very knowledgeable in Harry Potter and you're ready to hear everything, you already know everything, it doesn't matter, throw it at me. Go ahead and enjoy this episode. Which one would you use if you had a Get Out of Azkaban free card? And it wasn't just a...
Yeah. See, that's why you're part of this podcast. You had no idea we were going to go there.
Welcome back, witches, wizards, and muggles. We are Squibs Corner. As always, I am Jeremiah, and I am joined with...
I'm Andrew.
All right, and today we're going to go a little different route. We just covered Chapter 7, and we got the houses introduced. So I thought it fitting to get on here so you can get to know us a little bit, see what houses we're from, see a little bit of Harry Potter information from us. So... do you want to go ahead and start it off with your question? Or how about this? What is your Harry Potter house?
I am a Gryffindor.
Gryffindor, huh?
Tried and true, baby.
If you can't tell, if you're watching this, if you're not, I am a devoted Hufflepuff. And I know this to be true because I've taken that quiz 3 or 4 times, and every single time it's Hufflepuff. Even on Hogwarts Legacy, Hufflepuff. I was like, okay, I guess this is a thing. I'm not getting away. Some people, they take the test later, and it changes. No, that's not me. It's not me at all.
Some of the quizzes will do, like, put you in 2 houses. They'll say, oh, you're half Ravenclaw and half Slytherin. My daughter did a quiz like that one time, and she goes, oh, I'm a Ravenclaw and a Gryffindor. And I said, that's not a real thing. Get out of my face. I'm not talking to you right now.
Yeah, no, I thought that's something people made up. I didn't know it was like a real thing.
I'm sure some random internet quiz.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm gonna go ahead and take off this robe so I don't have to wear it the whole time and start sweating. So, I don't know if anybody listening has gone to formerly known as Pottermore. Now I think you just go to the Wizarding World. You can log in there and take the quiz. You get your house, but if you keep on going, you can get your wand, you can get your Patronus, and then I think there's a little bit. There's a number of things you could do on there. I know she used to put little tidbits about the books here and there. I don't know if they still do that. Do you know that?
You know, I'm not sure because I went on today. Because I joined Pottermore years ago. Wasn't very active on it, but I was like, oh, I'm going to take the house quiz, and then, what's the Patronus and all of that stuff. And went on today, and none of my login stuff worked for any. When it was originally Pottermore, like they assigned you a username. And I remember when they assigned me a username, it was like Ghost Patronus, and a couple letters here, a couple numbers or whatever. I was like, yeah, Ghost Patronus, sweet. Now you just go in and you put your name and email and birth date and you sign up.
You wound up redoing everything?
Well, I logged in, I took the quiz, and again, Gryffindor. And I try, when I'm taking the quiz, because I want to be a Gryffindor, it's like...
Well, yeah, there you go.
Harry did the same thing. Harry put on the sorting hat.
Yeah.
And he's like, not Slytherin, not Slytherin, not Slytherin. So but I try to be like, okay, don't answer like a Gryffindor. What would you truly answer? And then it's, okay, Gryffindor. Okay, Gryffindor.
I thought for sure that I would be a Slytherin. That's why I kept taking the quest. I'm like, there's no way I'm not a Slytherin. No, I'm not. So... I guess that's a good thing, though. I make it sound, oh, no, I'm not a Slytherin. No, that's a good thing. So, did you happen to find out what your wand is?
So when I took it today, it said like a 12.5 inch elm with dragon core,
Yeah,
which is okay.
yeah,
But when we before before Pottermore and all of that stuff, I used to always say that I had like a 14-inch elder wand with a phoenix feather core in it.
yeah, yeah. I like
You
the
know.
longer ones.
Yeah,
Mine,
some of them in the book, you're like, oh, like a 10-inch, a 9-inch wand, like
I think
that's a
Umbridge
pencil.
is. Yeah, I think Umbridge's is the shortest one. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think hers is like around 9, somewhere around
Yeah,
there.
she's just waving a magic marker around.
Yeah. So my wand turned out to be Hazelwood Phoenix core, 11 3/4 inches with unbending flexibility.
Ooh.
Yeah. What about your Patronus?
So when I did it with Pottermore originally, I was a phoenix,
Okay. Actually,
which I was
mine's
a
one.
big fan of. And
Yeah.
then when I did it today, it said it was a horse.
Yeah, mine's a cow.
So,
I had to
so.
give you my answer, and I went, oh. I mean, I like dogs, but chow dog?
Well, I used to, back before Pottermore, I used to say I had an elder wand, not the elder wand, but a wand
Yeah.
made of elder, and with a phoenix, and then I would say that my Patronus was a lion after Aslan
Okay.
from Chronicles of Narnia. That's what we used to,
Yeah.
having
Oh,
these
I forgot about those.
conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
All right. So you want to ask me a question, or you want me to keep going on this?
I'll ask you a question.
Okay.
Let's go for the basics. How old were you when you got introduced and or when you started reading the books?
Okay. Yeah, that was my next question anyway. So, okay, growing up, I wasn't part of the crowd and the long lines and the excitement. I wasn't part of that. So, growing up, my dad's girlfriend's daughter said, "Oh, have you heard of Harry Potter?" I said, "No." She's like, "Oh, I think you'd like it." So she put it in. I was like, "Oh, this is stupid." So I didn't watch. My son's he's 9. He'll be 10 in February. I didn't start watching it till about he was born because he was in the hospital for 3 months, open heart surgeries and everything. And I don't know if I already had the books or someone gave them to me. I was told someone introduced me to the books, and then I just started reading them, and it took me 2 years to get through it because I am a very slow reader, and a lot of the times I just forgot I was reading the book. So that was. So what got me into Harry Potter? I honestly couldn't tell you what got me into Harry Potter. It sucks to like be doing like I got this unboxing YouTube and this podcast and people, oh, what got you to started like Harry Potter? I don't know. If it's I can't remember or I just one day was like, I think I'll try to read these. So I guess for argument's sake, you could say the books got me into it because I can't even remember. I'm pretty sure I watched the movies first. So I guess the movies would have got me into it. And then somewhere along the line, I was like, all right, let me try these books.
You're lucky. You're lucky. I wish if people were getting into the series, I would tell them to watch the movies first, then read the book.
Yeah, I guess you have a better
Because
picture of everything happening.
better picture, and when you read the books first and then you watch the movies, you're
What
just so
happened to everything?
torn. Yeah, you're like, that's not what happens in the book. Well, why did they change it? And you can't enjoy the films
Yeah.
because you love the book so much. So,
Yeah, I wish I had a better story, but then somewhere along the line, so my dad had moved, and then we had an opportunity come up to move out to where I'm at right now with my grandma. And along the move, I think right before we moved, I bought a couple $1,000s worth of Harry Potter merchandise. And when I got it,
oh wow.
I kind of I waited till I got everything. Then I had all these boxes laying around everywhere. And I was like, you know what? a lot of this merch, I would go on YouTube and kind of, look it up and see if it's something I wanted, see if it was worthwhile. And a lot of the reviews I did or I watched, they weren't very good. So I was like, you know what? I have all of this merch. I don't want to just open it. How about I start my own unboxing channel and do better than what I'm seeing? That way I can help people decide if they want, Voldemort's wand or Dumbledore's wand or, just anything that I might get my hands on. So, yeah, I guess you could say I fell in pretty deep, and now here we are with the podcast. So, I mean,
Here we
there's no
are.
going,
Yeah.
yeah, there's no going back. It's just it's all uphill from here, I guess.
Yeah. You can't, no letting off the brake. That's for sure.
Yeah, no. How about you? Same questions.
Okay, so the timeline is a little fuzzy, but I think I was around 14, and my girlfriend and my younger brother were reading the books, and my younger brother at the time was into Pokemon, which I thought that's such a dorky, like what is
Yeah.
this, Because at the time I grew up very athletic. I played baseball and basketball. I was a competitive gymnast. I played soccer.
Oh
So
wow.
being indoors, I just wasn't into the Pokemon thing. So I
Yeah.
kind of made fun of them for reading Harry Potter. Oh, you're reading a dorky book about a boy, a wizard, whatever. And my girlfriend, who's my wife, she goes, well, look, if you think it's so dorky and you haven't even tried to read it. And if you think it's dorky, then make fun of us. I don't care. So cool. So that was a Friday afternoon, and I read books 1, 2, and 3 that weekend.
Oh, so you're just gonna make me look bad, huh? I
Well,
bet I bet books 1, 2, and 3 took me 8 months to read, or maybe 6 months.
well, here's now Goblet of Fire took
Yeah. Oh
me
yes.
longer, considerably longer, but the kind of monumental thing about that was prior to that point, I don't think I know that I had never read a novel cover to cover. I'd done many book reports on novels, but I had never read a book all the way through until I read The Philosopher's Stone. And so, that being said, my first Harry Potter books were not the Scholastic versions. So I did not read Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I got the Bloomsbury editions, which were, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, which I've read both versions, and I prefer the Bloomsbury just because it's all the vernacular that would be
Yeah.
used in Britain compared to, America.
Yeah.
Um, and so loved it. So because of that, um, I'll always, cherish Harry Potter for what it's done. And not just like I am not a singularity when it comes to Harry Potter getting people into reading. I mean, there's thousands of
Oh
people
yeah.
that, it gets them into reading. And so I read it and or listen to it usually once a year, or at least once every other year. Like I went down to Florida a couple weeks ago for a golf tournament, and I decided to drive instead of flying. It was 9 hours, so I put Philosopher's Stone on 1.5 times speed and just listened to it on the way down to Florida.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, love it, love it.
Yeah, I listen to it a few times a year actually. The funny thing, the other day, like before, well, I guess we're doing this in advance, but before we decided to reboot this podcast, I grabbed Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone and said, I'm going to start reading these again. And literally the next day, we decided to redo the podcast. And I was like, wow, what are the odds of that? That's
There
weird.
you go. Yeah, I've got the illustrated editions, which are amazing, and
How many of those
those
do they have? Because I
they
started
have
collecting them.
5.
Okay, I only have up to year 4.
Yes, they have 5, and those are the ones that I'm reading with my kids.
I am not. I don't think I've opened them. I got them and put them on my shelf.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm a
Mine are
collector, so it's hard for
sure,
me to
sure, sure,
open
sure,
certain
sure.
things. Yeah, and
Yeah.
these, I mean, they came out a while, like years ago, and the fact that they're only on book 5, Ooh, it's taking them
I
a
mean,
minute to come out with
when
them.
you look at the illustrations, I mean, they're painted illustrations. I mean, it's
Okay.
artwork that they're
Yeah,
doing. It's not computer generated stuff. I mean, they're actually creating the art, and they've done a great job with
that's
it.
pretty
We
good.
really enjoy them.
Yeah, I can't really get my kid into it. I keep trying, and then he started reading him. He was doing okay. Then all of a sudden, he came home from school and said, "Oh, I'm on chapter 6." I said, you went to school on chapter 1. Now you're on chapter 6." He's not the best reader, so I think he reads a few words, turns a page, reads a few words. I said, "What happened in this chapter?" "I'll know if you're wrong." Like, I know the
Yeah,
book's pretty good, so it's like, "Now you got to start over," and then it just killed it for him. So,
I love it.
uh,
I love it. All right, what's your next question?
let's see. Okay, so obviously I collect quite a bit. This is only a portion of my collection. I don't know if you've looked at my YouTube channel, but
Now,
I'm wondering,
what is your YouTube channel where you do the unboxing and the collecting?
Accio Potter Guy.
Accio Potter Guy.
Yeah, and
Perfect.
that's on YouTube.
Perfect.
So, do you collect or do you have any Harry Potter merchandise, memorabilia, or anything of the sort?
No, we've got. So when I lived down in Orlando, we had annual passes to Universal. So we each have the interactive wands that you can get from Universal.
I dropped mine
Um,
too many times, and it's now sitting in two pieces over there.
if you go to Universal and you take it, they will replace it for free.
Yeah, I live rather far away from any of them, so if I ever go back, I do plan
Yes.
on. Well,
Yes.
yeah, that's the thing. I don't know if I want it replaced or if I just buy a new one because that
Hey,
was
there
my
you go.
first one. So I don't know. That's what
There
I
you go.
started doing my unboxing videos with and everything, but I just dropped it too many times.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I have so I do collect, but I usually just pick one small thing.
Yeah.
And so, while we've got many Harry Potter things that my kids can play with, I don't really care. I have a sterling silver or it's pewter. I'm sorry. Sterling silver or pewter, I can't remember. Deathly Hallows uh symbol that
Okay.
it was a few $100s. It was gifted to me, and
Nice.
so I do have that. Which, yeah,
Do you ever plan on collecting more? Because it does get a bit pricey. The problem with my YouTube channel is if I do too many videos, I will run out of merch, and it's rather expensive, and it takes a
sure.
while to get here. So
I really don't. I never got into the collecting of things. I just have a few things that are sentimental. Like, when I was a competitive gymnast, I competed nationally, and I got many trophies and medals and all of that stuff. And I just keep one little trinket that
yeah.
I got when I went to the 1996 Olympics to watch, the Olympics there, and I just keep that. I don't know where all of the other stuff is. Maybe in a box somewhere.
Yeah, it's.
It's
I mean, I had to get a whole separate building for my stuff and then for the YouTube because I needed somewhere
yeah,
quiet to be. And it turns out it worked out because of this podcast, perfectly
yeah,
quiet, and it works. But
yeah.
as I get
Which is
older,
cool.
I'm yeah,
I love seeing other people's collections. Like, I've got nothing against it. I just Yeah,
yeah.
I love seeing all the wands behind you, and I
Oh yeah,
know I see Dobby's ear.
yeah. He's
And I
the
know
spirit
that's
Halloween one.
is that what it is? We can barely see him, but I know it's
Yeah,
his ear.
yeah. He's a little off color, but it works. It's better than not having the Dobby behind me.
Hey,
So
there you go.
yeah, I'm an advocate of less is more. So
Well,
it
since you're a collector, I'll ask, what is the your favorite piece that you've collected?
you know what? I think my favorite piece is probably Umbridge's wand. And I know it's weird to say, but I'm not. I don't think I'll ever remember the full story of how I got it, but I couldn't get it from the Noble Collection, and I couldn't get it in the U.S. So I had to go, I think, to like a UK site, and it wouldn't ship to the U.S. So I'm on these
Right.
Facebook groups, like these Harry Potter Facebook groups, and I found somebody in like, oh man, I don't know. I found somebody overseas that was able to purchase the wand and mail it to me, and then I paid her through PayPal. So yeah, it took a bit to get that wand, but it was like a, cause I think it gets discontinued every now and then. So
Wow. Okay.
yeah, I feel fortunate to have that because I did go on eBay and there's a lot of fakes on there of her wand. So
Uh,
it's a very simple wand that you could make with a wood lathe, and it wouldn't take too much effort to do it. So you got to be very careful where you're getting your merchandise from, as if you're collecting anything really.
sure. Sure.
I'll let you ask the next question.
What's your favorite of the books?
Ooh, okay. Ah, it's been so long since I've read the books. I'm looking at them right now. I really like the Deathly Hollows.
Oh, amen, brother.
So when I first watched and read the Deathly Hollows, I didn't like it because the setting was so much different and it felt like I was getting taken out of Harry Potter. But
Mm-hmm.
the more I got into Harry Potter, the more I was like, oh, you know what? This is the best of all the books because it's a whole culmination, and you're stepping outside of the school, you're stepping outside of the Muggle. No, you're stepping into the Muggle world. Hey, you're stepping in both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's like you're on the outside looking in instead of yeah, it's nice. It gets real interesting and real deep, and just the setting of them being outside most of the time and culmination of everything. No, they're really good.
Yeah, I'd have to say Deathly Hallows is by far my favorite, and I think it's because she does a really great job at recalling different bits and pieces from
Yeah.
the first six books, and then she just goes so deep into wand lore and
Ugh.
to magic and intention of magic, and then explaining the Deathly Hallows, and then you get the lineages of Harry, right? Harry being a descendant of a Peveril, and then
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
it's yeah, it's just so. Now book six is close. When I read book six,
Yeah, that's a
um,
mm.
I mean, not Harry's time with Dumbledore is some of my favorite reading of the thousands of books that I've read.
Yeah,
Harry's time with Dumbledore, and 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 I legitimately
mm.
physically reading Order of the Phoenix at the end, I had to put the book down, and I probably went outside and sobbed for 5 to 10 minutes
It's funny you
at
say that because
at
every
the end of
time I
six.
listen to the books or I read them, when I actually do sob when the books are over. When it's done listening, it's like, oh no,
Oh
what do I do
yeah,
now? It's
yeah,
like okay, I guess I'll restart it.
yeah. It's tough. Yeah, it's tough, but
So,
definitely Hallows.
what would be your least favorite? I'm gonna go two routes: least favorite book and movie, because I know that's probably going to be two different answers.
Um, so I'm not a fan of the movies in general. I think they did some
Hmm.
great stuff in the movies. And I think they did some terrible stuff in the movies. As far as skipping scenes, I think I can't, what is it?
The Goblet of Fire is the worst movie, in my opinion. There's some
Yeah,
good scenes. The Goblet of Fire has one of my favorite scenes. That's one of my questions. But the graveyard, everything about the graveyard scene,
sure,
masterpiece. But as
sure.
far as the movie
Yes.
as a whole, they left out too much. They
Yeah, I
they
love
yeah.
they left out a lot, and then the second challenge where they're all the champions are underwater, but yet they've still set up stadium seating for the students, so there's still spectator seating,
But they
and
can't
then they
see
dive
anything.
in. So I think that's funny. My least favorite thing of the book or of the movies. Well, I'll tell you my least favorite thing of the books, and I loved it when J.K. Rowling came out years later. Harry and Hermione should have ended up together. As when you're reading the books for the first time, it should have been Harry and Hermione. And now that we've been with it for so many years, we're like, yeah, obviously Ron and Hermione. But the first time you read it, even when I go back and read it,
Yeah,
it's like,
this
oh,
is
it should have been Harry and Hermione. And she admitted that later, that yeah, it should have been Harry and Hermione, but I thought I was being, you know,
yeah,
renegade, making it Ron and Hermione.
it's the
Um,
debate of Harry Potter. Really, a lot of people say, "Oh, Harry and Hermione didn't have much in common," but I think they had a lot more in common. Their kind of conversations were more sophisticated. The way they thought was, they did bicker a lot, but it, it it was nice of
Ron and
her to.
Hermione bickered far more than Harry and Hermione
Yeah, I was gonna
bickered.
say it was nice of her to put Ron and Hermione together because a lot of people see Ron as like the sidekick, the third wheel. So it's nice to
Sure.
make him a permanent part of that, so to speak.
Sure, and like I said, I've got no qualms with it being so long. Movie Jenny was terrible
Yeah.
compared to book Jenny. Book Jenny's awesome. Movie Jenny is
All right. So
lacking.
least favorite book.
Least favorite book. You know, I would have to say it's I'd have to say it's the Philosopher's Stone
Okay.
because, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. So Quirrell finds out how to get to the Mirror of Erised, right? He's gone through all of which these are very powerful wizards and witches setting obstacles. And McGonagall chooses a chess game. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so it's very, and we've talked about this. She was writing towards a younger crowd there,
Yeah.
but there's obstacles for what we know of what witches and wizards do. Very, very basic. And then he goes there and he stops Quirrell from taking the stone. But the only reason that Quirrell got the stone is because Harry was there. So if Harry never would have gone down there, remember, because
Yeah.
Dumbledore tells you afterwards, oh, but some of my most brilliant thinking, and that's saying something if I do say so myself, I put a spell that only a person that wanted the stone, not wanted to use the stone, would get it. So if Harry didn't do anything, if they never went down there, Quirrell never would have gotten the stone, and Dumbledore would have showed up, and it would have been
See,
case closed.
this is where we start getting into. Once you watch something so much, you can. It's like Swiss cheese. You can poke holes everywhere. You start know, why did they do this? Why
Mm-hmm.
didn't they do that? Why?
Yep.
But then it's kind of like this review. You look at it completely different, but if you look too deep, it could kind of take the fun out of it. You know what I mean? Because it's like that in any series, Lord of the Rings, just anything. Why didn't they just do this? Well,
Sure.
then there's
Yeah.
no story.
Well, and it's an 11-year-old,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
An 11-year-old. It's like it's very frustrating for me in book 2 that Harry doesn't just tell Dumbledore that he's hearing the voices and that's
Yeah.
how he's going. It's frustrating in book 3 when you start introducing the manipulation of time. And it's like, oh, well, if you can go back in time to study, you can go back in time and save Lily and James Potter. So it's
Yeah.
once you open time travel as a possibility within that universe, you're like, wait a second. There are so many more applications
Yeah.
that we can use time travel for. So, I say that in full appreciation of the books and in because obviously we got to see Harry test himself and Ron and Hermione test themselves by
Yeah.
going down and following Quirrell. So it obviously did have some benefit.
Yeah.
But like you and I have talked about before, books 1 and book 2, they're very geared toward children. So I kind of get through those and then boom, Prisoner of
torn.
Azkaban, bring it on.
So I would say book 1 and book 2 are my least favorite. But The Dursleys have to be, because this is another one of my questions. Oh, well, some of these questions you just can't give one answer. So the Dursleys are one of my favorite characters. That whole family, love them. I love the way they're described in the books. In the books specifically, I love the way they're described, the way their characters are drawn out. You get a perfect picture of what that family is, and
Sure.
they even in the movies they do it good. Like Umbridge, everybody hates Umbridge, but as an
Oh,
actress, she
she
did her
did
job
so good.
exactly the way she should have done it. Yes,
So good.
hands down. That's
Okay, so who's your favorite character and who's your least favorite character?
okay. Oh, I have two favorite characters. I probably have more. It kind of
Okay.
depends on my mood, I guess.
Sure.
Uh, the first one is okay. I'm gonna say three. He who
Okay.
must not be named,
Okay.
Bellatrix Lestrange,
Okay.
and why do I keep blanking on his name? Uh
Is it
he's in
Gilderoy Lockhart?
yeah, Gilderoy Lockhart. Yep. Total opposites right there with he who must not be
Yeah.
named Bellatrix and Gilderoy, but he who must not be named Bellatrix, they do their roles so well. They're depicted in the books
Sure.
amazingly.
Sure.
Gilderoy Lockhart, not so much mentioned, not so much featured in the movies, and it's disappointing because in the books, he's another one of those characters that's perfectly described. There's nothing left to the imagination with him, and it's written out so good, and even in the movies, he acts it out perfectly. Just he radiates arrogance. You can
Sure.
look at him and go, "Oh, this guy." He doesn't even have to say anything, and you know. Yeah, it's great.
Yes.
My least favorite character, we're gonna exclude Umbridge. So my least favorite character. Oh, I can't think of his name. My least favorite character. Okay, he goes in to Sirius's house after Sirius's death and ranshacks the place.
Oh my gosh. Mundungus Fletcher.
Yeah, I don't like him.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
don't.
yeah, yeah.
He's sleazy. He's
Yeah.
sleazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not because of his acting. I guess you're supposed to hate him, but he doesn't do much to the story, positive, negative. I think they could have just
Sure.
left him out, and it wouldn't have made a
Sure.
difference.
Sure.
So how about
No.
you?
I'm one of the weirdos, and I've always been like this. People say, well, "Who's your favorite character?" And I'm like, "Oh, easy, Harry. Harry is my favorite character." You could ask 100 Harry Potter fans who their favorite character is, and for some reason, no one says Harry. Hermione,
I,
we get a lot of Hermione, and 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 maybe it's like, oh, well, Harry's a given. I don't know, but Harry is my favorite character, and I have to say that Lockhart is my least favorite character.
what?
Um, and again, because here's the thing. Here's what I love about this. When I say least favorite character, I don't mean most disliked character because I
Okay.
hated Umbridge,
Oh
right?
yeah, no,
But she
Umbridge.
was she was so necessary. She was
Oh
so necessary.
yes.
I mean, I hate her more than I hate Voldemort. At least Voldemort was born under the conditions of a love potion, and therefore, he may or may not have the ability to love, and that's what. But Umbridge, like,
Mm.
she's just a power hungry. And then Lockhart, again, it's a book two thing where Albus Dumbledore, we learn, he has turned down the post of Ministry of Magic so much because he cares so deeply about the education and the magical rearing of the wizarding community at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. And I just feel like if we were to put this in a real life situation, which obviously we're talking about Harry Potter, um, Dumbledore would have taught the class himself. Every professor knew how inept Lockhart was.
Okay, I'll
And
give you that.
so
Yeah.
I don't think that Albus Dumbledore would have said, yeah, only one person applied for the job. We're just going to go ahead and give it to you.
So in a real life
And then
scenario, you're saying Gilderoy Lockhart wouldn't have been there.
I don't think, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And you know, Albus, whom we love, and obviously it was to, you know, there was some comedic silliness with his character, and it was a great plot twist, right? His character did provide an amazing plot twist, but I think overall I'm just like,
Yeah,
mm,
again, the story could have been done without him. So,
yes,
but I
yes.
think he added some silliness to that book. And I'm actually
that
a
was
little,
geared that was geared towards a younger audience. So I mean, it makes sense
yeah,
from a literary standpoint. It makes sense, um, but
yeah.
having yeah, yeah. No offense, Gilderoy.
All right. Go ahead with your question now.
Okay. So we did that. Let's see. So tell me one thing that you think the movies did better, and one thing that you think the book did better. Like, just, I know we mentioned Jenny, book Jenny was way better than movie Jenny, but
Okay, one thing the books did better was Goblet of Fire. I don't need to explain anymore.
enough said.
Enough
Enough
said.
said. Enough said. Yes.
What did the movies do better? As far as getting your head in the universe, as far as imagery goes, the scenes with Voldemort, it gave you a clear picture of who he was. It gave you that feeling of the power, the feeling of the sorrow, the contempt, the despair. Because reading it's one thing, but seeing it and how the actors bring it out, I think that Voldemort.
Yeah, some of the casting in the films was so spot on.
Oh yes.
Like when you look at Snape, when you look at McGonagall, when you look at Richard Harris for the original Dumbledore, you know, Ralph for Voldemort. I mean, like just some of the casting was just so spot on,
Mm.
and the acting, you know, for the most part was just on point.
Yeah. No, it was
Um,
curious
so
about your answer here.
okay, so Hedwig's death in the movie. So in the book, she is in her cage at Harry's feet in the sidecar of the motorbike as they're fleeing the Death Eaters, because Harry has turned 17 and they're, you know, going to turn 17, so they don't want the trace to fall off. But uh, so Hedwig in the movie, she is flying. She is not in a cage, so she's flying, and a Death Eater casts Avada Kedavra at Harry, and Hedwig swoops in the way and takes that spell to save Harry's life.
Yep.
Infinitely better than her being trapped in a cage and getting killed. The movie, one of my favorite book characters, because I love a good character arc, and Creature in the books had such a great character arc that the movies just
There was a
didn't
lot
even
left out
touch.
with Creature in the movies too. I know at one point Sirius tells him to go away, get out of here, and Creature
Get
takes
out.
it serious and actually
Mm-hmm.
leaves the house.
Mm-hmm.
They don't mention that in the movie.
Yes. And how Creature knows all about it. And then when, you know, like in the books, after Sirius dies, at the beginning of the next book, Dumbledore comes to the Dursleys' house and sits down with Harry before they leave to go get Professor
Yeah.
Slughorn. And he's like, okay, you were his godson, magical wills, there's spells and all this stuff. And he goes, there's one way to show if you really did inherit
Oh
all of
yes.
Sirius's things. And he goes, what is that? And he goes, the house elf. if you call creature and he shows up, then that means that everything that rightfully belonged to Sirius now belongs to you.
I thought that was such a good thing to include because
So great.
how simple,
So
how
good.
simple. Creature, come here.
Yes.
Oh, yep, the house is mine.
And
Or
he
nope,
shows
it's
up.
not. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And he
Yeah.
shows up and he has to do what and that's how, from that point, he goes, oh, well, just let him go. Just let him go to Hogwarts.
I feel bad for
So
Creature, like right before the war, how happy he was getting. I'm definitely going to have to put a disclaimer at
he,
the beginning of this episode because
oh,
super spoilers and dead giveaways in here.
oh
But
my gosh. We know, yes. It's, if you
yeah,
haven't read the books or watched the
yeah.
movies by now,
Definitely
yeah,
putting that at
yeah,
the beginning before
yeah.
this starts.
Book creature, his character arc was so amazing.
Yeah, you
And
feel
they
sad
got
for
a little
him.
bit of it in the movies, but I thought books just did far and away. Many
Yeah.
things the books did better, but excuse me, that was yeah, one that always stands out to me.
Okay, so how about your favorite spell? This one is a hard one. And
You know,
I was kind of going through a list of spells, and in my videos, I used to open it up with Lumos, and I'd kind of play around with it, and Lumos, and
sure,
nothing happened. And at the end of
sure.
my videos, I say Nox. But since my handle is Accio Potter Guy, I got to go with Accio,
Acio's a
the
good
summoning
one.
charm. Yeah.
Yeah, Acio's a good one. I like that one. Um,
But if I had
it's
to
so
really
great.
think deep about it, I would think by the end of this, once we're done with the podcast, which if that even happens, I might have a different answer.
Sure, yeah, I like legilimens just for the fact
Mm.
of um
Legilimens.
well, and it's so frustrating, like you have legilimens and you also have Viridiserum. And then you put Sirius Black in jail for 12 years. You know what I'm saying? It's like you
Yeah,
have like, oh, we're gonna do this wizard tribunal. You're on trial here. What if instead of doing that, we use the magic that we have at our disposal and get the truth out of them?
because the
We can
minister wasn't a very good minister. I'm gonna come right out and say it. He
okay,
did not like
okay,
confrontation. He didn't
okay,
like
sure,
attention being pointed at him in a negative
sure,
light.
sure,
So he just wanted to be done with it.
sure.
I mean, we all
Yep,
know his reaction when you know who comes back. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, but Accio is a good one. What is not spell related? What is your favorite kind of bit of magic that is performed? And I'll go first on this one. I love many things, but I love the animagus bit of magic that they could train themselves and
yeah, that
and
would be nice.
and McGonagall, Professor McGonagall, she tells Hermione that there are less than 100 registered animagi that are registered.
Yeah.
So that it's not necessarily an easy particular bit of magic, but I always thought that was pretty cool.
I'd have to say the ability to be able to fly.
So
I
yeah,
mean, that would come in handy more than you would think. I mean,
yeah.
not
No,
just in
sure.
handy, but I
Yeah,
mean, you get
apparition,
frustrated.
apparition, yeah,
Yes.
apparition and
Oh,
disapparating. Yeah,
yeah. Oh,
no,
yeah.
oh yeah,
Okay, yeah, yeah. That's it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I even
Okay,
had this bit in my videos where I would start out the unboxing videos. I'd be in the middle of the road or on top of the roof, and I just or disapparate and then apparate in here,
yes.
or act like I messed up the disapparation, and when I apparate it, I would just fall right down on the ground. So it was nice to play around with that.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, so your favorite scene? I have about three of them. Like I said, it's really hard to pick one.
Ooh.
So when Harry, I'm gonna try to be vague because if somebody's listening to this that just doesn't know so much about Harry Potter, I'm just going to try to keep it vague. When Harry, Ron, and Hermione are in the tent, Ron hands Harry a wand. Harry points the wand at the fire that's in front of him and like a little bottle that Hermione can produce. He yells, "Incordio!" And it just blows up, scares the crap out of Ron and Hermione goes, "What's happening?" "Nothing, Reduso." No, they say Reduso, and then she goes, "What's happening?" "Nothing." That scene is funny.
Yes.
And the second scene, I've already mentioned it. The whole entire graveyard scene, the whole
Great.
thing.
Yes.
If I'm half paying attention to the movies or the books, I will give it my full attention at that point.
Sure.
And lastly, when we first meet Ollivander, everything he starts saying when Harry gets his wand, the whole line right there is just the way he came in for that one role, and that was it. And as far as I know, he didn't have any acting, and he just out of the park,
Oh yeah. No,
out of
no,
the
no.
park. One of the best scenes in the whole movie.
No, he's a very famous actor.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah, he's a very famous actor.
But
He
still,
has passed
he's
away, but he's a very
knocked
famous
that out
actor.
of the park. It was,
Yes.
oh, yeah. When we get to that part, I'm definitely quoting that. I'm gonna try to bring out the energy with it. Ooh,
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. My favorite movie scene.
it could be movie or book.
My favorite book scene by far is the ending of the Battle of Hogwarts, which is done completely different in the ending is completely different in the book compared to the movie. In the movie, if you've only watched the movies, it's Voldemort and Harry are by themselves outside, removed from everybody else. In the book, the battle, because of the commotion outside, the giant spiders and the giants and the centaurs, and they've all kind of been ushered back into Hogwarts. And so this battle is happening. Most of the Death Eaters have either been killed or they're incapacitated. And so it narrows in on there's just a few of the Death Eaters left, and Voldemort. And Voldemort's taken on multiple people, and Bellatrix is taking on multiple people, and so Voldemort is seeing his, basically lieutenants dying, and he becomes frantic. He just starts slashing, and so Harry is there, and they circle and
Yeah.
everyone steps back. Everybody's watching this, and Harry keeps calling him Tom. You knew that, didn't you, Tom? But you thought that Professor Snape was the true ruler of the Tom because of the Elder Wand, because you only thought that it passed by death, didn't you, Tom? And so they're going around, and Voldemort's looking everywhere, and you see this. You see Voldemort. I mean, like it's just done so
It's
well
the
in the
good guy
book.
with the monologue instead of the bad guy with the monologue.
Yes, and and one of the things that I love about a good protagonist is one that can keep his cool. So we've seen Harry throughout the series, especially um book um book 5 with Umbridge. He loses his cool a lot. Ron and Hermione are
Oh
becoming
yeah.
their prefects, and they're leaving him
As
out
I
of
read the
everything.
books more and more, I was like, man, Harry's kind of stupid. And he's kind of a. I
Oh,
mean,
I hate reading book 5. Like Order of the Phoenix is so hard to read.
he's not very
And
nice.
yeah, no, I love it, but she's writing this, pubescent teenage angst, solitary,
Yeah.
he feels like he's the chosen one. Like why are they leaving me out? So
Oh
they do
yeah.
such a
No,
good
I get
job
it.
of it.
Yeah.
But then in that last dialogue with he and Voldemort keeps trying to get under his skin, and Harry just doesn't let it. He just keeps going on,
That's
and
nice.
so well done, so well done.
Yeah. Do you have any more questions on your list? I got a couple
Yes, I
more.
do. Yeah, I got a
All
couple
right.
more. Have you ever read and or written any fan fiction, Harry Potter related.
Does a cursed child count? I was gonna.
No,
So,
because
but before I answer
J.K.
that
Joanne wrote
question,
that.
I'm just looking for a yes or no. Cursed child. Yes or no?
No, but that's not fan fiction. That's like Cursed Child is like Fantastic Beast. You know what I'm
Well, I
saying? Like
mean,
it's
would you consider it to be part of the Harry Potter universe? Like, did you read it? I'm sure you
no,
did. No.
no,
Okay.
no.
So,
I have no. You know,
okay. So you're a no on that. Okay.
yeah, I'm a no on that.
So, fan fiction. I guess as far as stories, no. I've had a couple of
Which
people
there's
come to me.
tons of it out there. There's
Yeah,
tons of fan fiction
I've
out
had
there.
people come to me and tell me that they're writing some fan fiction. I said, "Cool, show it to me when you're done, and I can share it." But I never hear back from them because writing's hard. Um,
Sure.
but I've seen fan fiction like opinions, like like what happens here and there. That I've never delved that deep because there's a certain amount of when people are just making up their own Harry Potter stories. That's where I kind of get lost. I'm like, no, I'm
Sure.
okay.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I don't like it when I don't like and again, I've not read a lot of fan fiction, but I don't like it when like if they want to, oh, in this story, Hermione and Draco get married. And it's like, okay, well, I've got no. You've now changed canon, right?
yeah,
If you've changed what J.K. Rowling has written, I'm not interested in it. If you can
yeah.
write something that goes along with, cool. Um, so so yeah.
Okay. I have
Yeah.
so this question's a little fun, but we may
Okay.
get in a little bit of trouble over it with the fans. It's not that bad of a question. So, out of the 3 unforgivable curses, I'm not going to name them all, but we know what they are.
You know what they are.
Which one would you use if you had a get out of Azkaban free card? And it wasn't just a one-time use. It was you could use this and you would never be sent to Azkaban and you would never get in trouble.
So if I'm using it in applicable, like, I'm gonna be honest right now. There are bad people in this world. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
There are bad people in this world. So, um,
I'll let you think on that because I got my answer.
well,
Could,
I already know it's the Avada Kedavra curse,
oh,
and
wow.
yeah, yeah. Then but I would be using it in like a almost like a capital punishment type way. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Not like, oh, I can just kill whomever I please. No, not like that.
yeah.
Because like I think controlling people's actions is terrible. Right? Like, forcing people to do things against their will.
See, that's where we differ. There's a lot of there's a lot of not so smart people in the world. I full force would use the Imperio curse. Not to make people necessarily forget, because sometimes you can make people forget, like, hey, forget what's going on. I would want to get them. There's a lot of not so smart people out there in politics and just in general. What works on paper doesn't work in real life. So
Sure.
I go around using that, making people do what's right. Because some people think they know what's right when it isn't. Because again, it's on paper.
Well,
That
so
doesn't mean it's going to work.
you get into dangerous territory there. You're basically
Yeah.
admitting that you know better than
Well,
masses of other
yeah.
people. So
It,
that's you kind of get into some
it steps into the world of narcissism. I get
sure,
that, but I just see some people wholeheartedly thinking they know the right thing when it's clearly wrong. I mean, there's a lot of psychopaths, murderers, and stuff out there that think it's okay.
sure, yeah,
So, and common sense, I don't see a lot of much anymore. So, I believe common sense goes farther than book smarts.
sure,
So, when people have book smarts over common sense, just like I keep saying, what works on paper doesn't always actually work in real life.
sure, sure.
But I
No,
mean, I mean, you say I get into dark territory using the Imperial curse. I mean, you're going around Avada Kedavra. I mean, you can't get much deeper or much darker than that.
Well, I was thinking more of the line of terrorists and
Yeah.
you're talking like the people that are going around murdering. Those are the people that will be like,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm gonna step in. It's like
You get the death penalty. Okay.
wizards,
Avada
witches,
Kedavra.
muggles, and scripts. This is all hypothetical.
Yeah.
This is
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
none
No,
of
no.
that. We're not- yeah, that's funny.
So hopefully everybody forgives us.
Yeah, yeah. See, that's why you're part of this podcast. You had
Yeah.
no idea we were gonna go there in this introduction podcast.
So we'll get a little bit more serious here. So, what does this podcast mean to you? And what do you hope to accomplish with it?
So the podcast, number one, reviewing, my favorite book series is just a blast. These are conversations that you've probably had dozens of times with different people, and now you get to go systematically through and express your opinions, and hopefully we'll get people that will write to us and comment and say,
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I completely disagree with you here, or I completely
Oh,
agree
yeah.
with you here. Like, we want to hear all
Yeah.
of the opinions, because
Yes.
I
Don't just agree
guarantee-
with us, because that's boring.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
need to disagree.
Well, and you've seen now, just in this podcast, we've disagreed on a few things, which
Yeah,
is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's fine.
And so, and I love to, typically the conversations that you have about Harry Potter are one-off, about somebody that you meet and you're like, yeah, this is what I think about this one topic. Now we get to discuss in depth many of the things in Harry Potter, and I love Harry Potter. I love trivia, so I've done Harry Potter trivias, and
Yeah.
I've always come in first place. Like I love Harry Potter. So listening to other people's opinions, because it sounds like from just our conversation, several times we've asked the same questions, and I've come at it from the book side, and you've come at it from the movie side.
Yeah,
And so,
I think it's one of the reasons is I've already tried doing this podcast and it failed the first time. So I've been stuck inside book number 1 and book number 2 for quite a while. And I've listened to the book so much and watched the movie so much that I get them mixed up, because I've just seen them so much. Yeah.
Sure.
And I think the movies, because I'm more of like I'm more imagery when it comes to learning and remembering. So, the movie's got the imagery and I can remember everything like that easier. So
Sure.
It's been a while since I've listened to the whole book series all the way through.
Yeah, no, understandable.
Yeah.
And what about you? What are you trying to, why are you doing the podcast? What do you want to get out of it?
So at first, when I did the podcast, it's because I just wanted to do a podcast. I had the YouTube channel, I was unboxing and started doing the TikTok, and I tried to associate it with Instagram and stuff, but it's too much. So I kind of backed off of that. I don't really post much on the Instagram. So mainly YouTube, and I was like, you know what? Podcast. I don't want to be that angry guy that sits there like they do on the AM stations and just yell and complain about everything, because
Sure.
That's our generation. It's like we got dealt the short hand right for us in it. There's a lot of stuff that went wrong, before our generation that led up to now. But I'm sure every generation says that.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but so I was like, why don't I just do a Harry Potter podcast, like a book review or something? And so at first it was, want to do a podcast. What are we going to do podcast? Well, Harry Potter, obviously. And then it turned into, it's a lot of work. Don't get me wrong. There's scripts to write out. There's studying to do. You got to break down the books. There's a lot that goes into it, a lot more than I thought. But it turned into, like, when we sit down and record, it's us, the script, the camera, the mic. Nothing else matters, because we have to focus solely on this. because it does require a lot of thinking, even though it's it's not real, but it's real to us. So yeah, it
Sure,
requires
yeah.
just pure focus. It's the time you get to sit there and you don't think about anything else except the podcast. So I found out with my ADHD, this is I could hang out with my fiance, I could hang out with my kid, whatever, the good joys in life, but that doesn't turn off my brain. The podcast turns off my brain and allows me to focus on one thing, and oh my God, is it such a relief?
Sure.
Because you're thinking of so many different things all at once, all day long with ADHD, and to be able to only think about one thing, much needed. Much
I
needed.
accept.
Yeah, and I
Nice.
want to hear from people as well. I get to know
Sure.
people in the wizarding community, get to know their thoughts, their opinions, how they feel about Harry Potter, what got them into it, because it means different things to different people, and I think as a whole, it's just a big relaxation thing, like an escape.
Love it. Love
Yeah.
it.
So if you've listened to us till the end with this hour-long introduction to
Bravo.
us, yeah, bravo,
Bravo.
man. This is going to be a long road. I've done the math. This is at least a 4-year project, strictly with the books. So I'm hoping we could both stick it through the 4 year, because it's going to be longer than 4 years. We got that HBO series coming out that we got to talk about, and I'm a little nervous about that, but we'll talk about that later. So hopefully you guys
Yeah.
enjoy what you've heard so far. Hopefully you guys keep enjoying it. And like I said, if you want to write into us, squibscorner@gmail.com. Be a guest. Tell us a story. I'll put you on the podcast. We'll put you on the podcast. If you
Yeah.
don't want to be on the podcast, we'll just read your story. You can physically be on the podcast. This is a world where we get it, and we want you to be as much as a part of it as we are. So,
There you go.
and yeah, you can get a hold of me on Instagram, Accio Potter Guy. Check out my YouTube, Accio Potter Guy. All kinds of unboxings on there. I'm not sure if there's any wands, but I don't know. You have to go check it out for yourself. And I think I will go ahead and sign this out because we were just speaking of Dumbledore. Let's see if I can read this quote. I think I remember it. Happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if one only remembers to turn on the light.